The plan was to meet the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus train coming out of Orlando as it turned south at Auburndale and chase it all the way into Miami. On Kevin Andrews's advice that the train would probably leave earlier than the suspected 7 a.m., I got up at 30 Sunday morning. Kevin was dead on. I was in Sebring by 0600 and still far behind the train. For 2 more hours through white sheet fog, I listened to 921 call signal after signal miles ahead of me, smelling only faint diesel smoke in the air.
TSX P9, 2106, no defects. Clear. North End Sherman. Engine 87, 6, southbound.
It was Zana siding before I paralleled P921, and then the chase really began. I didn't get my first ground level shot until the St. Lucie Canal, and that was in pretty thick fog. Oh, 7:56. I pulled up to Dyer Siding and Military Trail on the very outskirts of West Palm, just ahead of the circus train. The SFRM was already there. This group, which I call the South Florida Railfan Mafia, coordinates outings together. The whole gang was here this morning. Organizer Paul Mathis and Lyle, Mike, Ted Marshall, Tolga Ibora, Austin, and Tim Squires. Josh Kentner from Lakeland was on the chase too. Was right on my taillights most of the way down. The next order of business was to find a spot to watch the handoff of the Ringling train from CSX to FEC, the Florida East Coast Railway, which would bring it from West Palm into Miami. The connection between the two lines is called Mission Spur off the CSX and Lewis Terminal off the FEC. A problem quickly appeared on the CSX side. The 2 big 6-axle GE locomotives CSX was pulling the circus train with were not permitted on the older, lightweight tracks of Mission Spur. After much conference between conductors and train masters and road foremen of engines, it was decided that P921 would pull the train on the main line, around a Y, then back the circus consist onto Mission Spur, just before the point where the CSX locomotives would enter the rickety tracks. Then FEC would come up, pull the consist onto its own tracks using its 2 4-axle engines. Problem solved. Except that now we have this unusual train with both passenger and freight blocks headed south to Miami with the freight end leading. Not permitted by the Ringling transportation folks. At the bottom of Lewis Terminal, more rail fans joined the chase. It was decided after nearly 3 hours of wrangling to just pull the train onto the FEC, and they would resort the consist on their main line. So the freight end was pulled out first and back down into the siding. Then the passenger and animal cars were pulled out and back onto the top of the freight cut. I I never realized until this day that the elephant cars rode on 6-axle trucks. While the FEC made the RBBX train solid, we rail fans rushed down south to the next photogenic location, Deerfield Beach and the Hillsborough Canal Bridge. I hung back with Lyle to get the shadow side at the curve. The Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Blue Unit was now FEC 143, and this would be our last shot of him today. From there we grabbed lunch, and then I asked to see a tri-rail station. Nearest was Hollywood Fort Lauderdale Airport at Dania. I really had no idea where we were, but that's what it said on the sign. Tri-Rail is South Florida's regional commuter rail system and runs 71 miles from just north of West Palm to the Miami airport. It's the southern end of the famous Seaboard Airline Miami extension built in the 1920s. In the late 1980s, CSX agreed to sell this southernmost segment of the old SAL mainline to the state of Florida for commuter service. While the line is state-owned, CSX still maintains track and dispatching for the entire Miami sub and has exclusive freight rights over it. The South Florida Railfan Mafia took me to one more spot in the area, the Fort Lauderdale Intermodal Yard on the FEC. Alas, being Sunday, nothing was running. After a while, we parted company, and I headed for my hotel. Next day, I explored more of the Miami area, found a few more tri-rail trains, caught at a couple of hot spots the gang had recommended. Iris in Hialeah. This is where CSX Tri-Rail crosses the FEC. By day's end, I was headed north and back to Tampa. Last train of this adventure was Amtrak 91, headed into South Florida, with Heritage Unit 184 leading. The This was a great adventure thanks to all of my South Florida railfan friends, and I'm already planning my next trip back. From the edge of the Florida Everglades, this is Danny Harmon, out.